Okay, let's go to deal number 2, because this is a really interesting deal. Yeah, I'm not going to read the disclaimer, but it does apply here as well. Before we go to the notes, let's get that simple model, the top of it for the screen capture for Carmen and anybody else who doesn't get a chance to do the screen capture because I don't leave it up there long enough. If you want to screen capture deal number 2, the simple model, there you go. I like to put it down here on the balance sheet on the income statement as we're going through it. This is Stig's deal. I'm not going to shortchange this one on time because it's a really interesting deal. And just to sort of pre-call, I love this business too. This business supplies blueprints online for people building homes. This is a completely virtual business. Everything is conducted online. What do they sell? They sell architectural drawings. Average is about $1,500 a piece. I think there's upgrades and there could be some add-ons. Stig explained a little bit about that in our call. We had a 911 call on this. So that's the main product. It's the architectural drawings to home builders. They also sell a materials list product. If you want to do a takeoff of the drawings and come up with a bill of materials or a list of what you're going to need, they have that product. That's about $350. Then they got a budgeting product, a cost to build product, only $20. If you buy this plan and you want to figure out what it's going to cost to build this, right? They've got a product that's going to calculate that for you. Now, this, in terms of who supplies these architectural drawings, the owners themselves have provided 200 house plans to the website and the business. I was really shocked by that number. I have nothing to do with architecture, so it did seem really big to me. But then I realized that, hey, they've got 150 other third-party architects who supplied over 25,000 additional plans. So they have an absolute ton of plans on their website. Their target market, Americans who want to build their own home. They don't want the expense of hiring an architect to kind of create a customized plan. They might create an architect. They'll give them somebody to sort of work with as a base to kind of cut down on their costs, or maybe they won't deal with an architect at all. We're going to talk to Stig about that. Seller is located in the U.S. Southwest. Business is virtual, but of course it sells nationally. Why wouldn't it? Business has been for sale for 6 months. The ask price, $2.5 million. Now, obviously no property involved in this. The business was founded in 2006 by a husband and wife team who are 50-50 owners. If you're unmuted, please mute yourself, folks. Roger, the husband in the team, is an architect in his late 50s. He oversees the business and puts in a tough 20 hours a week. Fran, she's a real estate agent in her late 50s, also active in the business 5 hours a week. They sold a business exactly like this one in 2003 to a private equity firm. And they didn't feel like they got enough money for it. So they launched this one 3 years after they sold the other one. I'm assuming when the non-competes ran out, they just redid the website. They launched the business again, attracted all the architects. They've been kind of, working on it ever since. Now, I'll tell you, I got a lot of enjoyment out of this next bullet. Motivation for sale. Roger and Fran are tired of working and want to retire. No more responsibility, they want to sell. I'm thinking, here's two people. Since 2007, they've had an online business. As you can see from the EBITDA, right? They're making pretty good coin every year. They go wherever they want. You can run this business from wherever you want. It's a virtual business. It's 100% online, right? Fran's putting in 5 hours a week. Roger's putting in 20, but they're tuckered out and they're tired of working and they want to retire. Like, to me, it feels like they've been semi-retired the whole time. I'm sure there was a lot of work that went into this business, but I mean, what a fantastic business to own, where you can do it anywhere in the world, right? Roger's an architect. He's really good at putting this stuff together. He works on polishing up the stuff that's rendered prior to being published. So, and the website looks good. So, I mean, full marks to these folks. But I really had a hard time kind of empathizing with their kind of tiredness, burnt outness, and wanting to retire when, hey, they're only semi-working in the first place. Legacy is very important to them. They value integrity. They want to maintain strong relationships with all partners, architects, and consultants. Yeah, so Roger and Fran know what they're doing. Like, we're operators. They built a business successfully and sold it to a PE firm and then did exactly the same thing a second time. But they are on autopilot. There's no doubt about it. Roger is strong on presentation, very often photoshops the renderings that are published. He's potentially open to carrying on doing some of that work. Only one full-time employee in the business. I think it's a friend who was a former contractor. Plus, they have one part-time admin person. So like I said, they got the business on autopilot. It runs well in its current form. Plenty of opportunity for business improvements have been identified. And what you need to know about Stig is in this business, right? He does construction. He works in this area. So he's got kind of an insider kind of expert subject matter expert opinion in terms of where the business improvements have been identified. And what I loved about my call with Stig is he was identifying opportunities that I'm sure Roger and Fran probably have already identified, right? It's just they did not have enough fuel in the tank, right, to go after it hard. They wanted to exit. So this is the kind of business that's great, but it's on autopilot. It has plenty of room for business improvement. I mean, the business improvement that they enjoyed from 20 to 21 was attributed to engaging a new SEO firm, search engine optimization firm. They got a strong improvement in their Google rank. It generated improved web traffic. This is a key to this deal, in my opinion. We talked about that quite a lot. It's a vulnerability if you bought this business and somehow or other, Google changed the algorithm, or this SEO firm decided that they wanted to start from Hawaii for a couple of years and shut it down. Would you be able to replace them easily? Are you vulnerable on that front? We didn't make a conclusion one way or another. We were just throwing the topic around in discussion. That pandemic actually helped this business because it made online virtual meetings the norm, like we're having right now. It's the same way it helps so many virtual businesses. I mean, Carl was the same way. Carl had a virtual business long before the pandemic, and it did really well. But as people became more and more accustomed to and normalized to, Zoom type meetings, right? It helps virtual businesses. They sold approximately 1,200 plans in 2021. They sold 4,200 cost to build reports. The average customer acquisition cost about $50. Income per visitor, 80 cents. Unique visitors over 2 million. That's a pretty good number. Requests for refunds less than 1%. Super important metric. I love to see it in the notes. Now, what do they pay the architects who submit these plans? They pay 40% of the revenue that's paid. All right, so that's not bad. I'm sure some of these people are doing quite well. They budget for Google AdWords and pay-per-click type advertising about $150K. They do have an SBA deal on the radar and are willing to carry the necessary standby seller note to make it happen. The website is great, well organized, appealing, easy to navigate, great photos. Take a bow, Roger and Fran. Did a really nice job on it. It's not flashy, but it's all flows really nicely. You just get the feeling that this is a very reputable, sort of well thought out, type of business. Mud score, I'd say average. They're motivated to exit, but not a ton of the hard urgency and distress that we like to see in a higher mud score. But yeah, they've done it twice. And that 20 hours a week is wearing on Roger, and that 5 hours a week, well, Fran said enough of that too. So they want out. The ask price is a little bit steep, but I don't know. It's not something that I would completely categorically reject. I am going to get Stig on here right away because I wasted too much time already. So I want to keep things moving here. So I'm not going to give you my take on the business, except in a conversation with Stig, who can give us a little bit of background. Stig, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, totally. So Andre and I are actually partnering on this. Andre's also in the program. Andre is a product manager in the software space. I am I'm a contractor, also work for an architecture firm. So we sort of have that combination going. I love the comms for everyone, especially the non-compete. We're not too worried about that just because they're much older. They're in their 60s now, so they're sort of done working. So that's a really critical component to this. Yes, I think it's overvalued. So they're speaking to their financial advisor, and that's sort of their retirement number. They want 2.5 million to retire. So there's that. But there's a lot of meat left on the bones. I mean, they're not doing much. Like people said, it's similar to an e-commerce business, except for that all their products are digital data files, and so the products are $1,000, $5,000, depending on the plan. And then you could have add-ons. So you could buy a material list, you could buy a budget. And then they also have a component where you could change the actual plans, but they're not taking money for that. So that's another add-on. They don't do any social media marketing, advanced community building. They only really do SEO. So they have one firm. And like John said, it's sort of all dependent on this one firm. From our research, they're legit SEO firm. They actually did the website. But they don't attract more architects for plans. They don't do much marketing. The firm does everything. They just sit back and let it ride. Honestly, they're not doing much at all. So there's a lot to build. And in this industry, there's 20 or 30 other businesses, and they're doing much better. Like they're capturing maybe 4% of the space. So yeah, Andre, if you got stuff to say, please.
Yeah, my sister just went through the process less than a year ago. She paid, over $1,000 for a stock plan, and then she wanted to make a lot of adjustments to it, and she ended up paying something like $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 total. And the one thing we noticed is that the sellers are kind of leaving money on the table because they do have maybe 10% of the customers who want stock plan modifications. But what they do is they say, okay, here's the architect's contact info, arrange it with them. We have nothing to do with it, which does make it easier from the perspective of them doing less work. But like I said, I think they're leaving some money on the table because we can integrate a payment structure into this, handle the payments for them, take a certain percent cut, and increase revenue. Just one of the ways.
Yeah, and that was a big part of the discussion that Andre and Stig and I had on the call was, what's the path to business improvement? Because to me, the key to this deal is you're not going to be able to probably borrow any money, cash flow, or assets up front to fund a closing payment. So it's going to have to be mostly, seller financed. Again, I kind of like the idea of a royalty scheme on this one because, you're protected a little bit in terms of, the fact that real estate is so tightly tied to the business cycle. It's so tightly tied to interest rates. And, if you had royalties allows your payments to the seller to go up and down depending upon the revenue of the business. So it gives you a little bit more protection on the downside. And we figured that, we probably could overpay for this business if they would accept that kind of structure. But we also identified that the key to making it happen was the business improvement. That I'm not interested in the royalty plan if this business is going to flatline for 5 years. But if Stig and Andre can somehow or other 2x or 3x this business over 5 years, then we thought that would be a fairly compelling narrative. Stig or Andre, could you guys talk a little bit about the hardcore business improvement plan that you guys would undertake if you did manage to land this business?
Yeah, we got a whole slew of things we're going to do. So they, because they're at the beginning of the life cycle of construction, someone's new home, we have the plan to put together a catalog that basically has all the building products in construction, and we're going to run ads from all the building products, faucets to plumbing fixtures to paints to anything you could think of. We could even include interior designers. So that's just another product offering we could bring. They haven't done any social media marketing. There's all sorts of micro influencers out there, real estate agents, interior designers, etc. that could work. That's just on for that. We also, so Andre has a GM that could help run it. And then we also want to automate the onboarding of architects. So right now, one bottleneck is the architect likes to control everything that happens when the architect submits plans. So we want to create more of a platform out of it where they can come in, build enter it themselves, and then upload it. So creates more of a SaaS model than a e-commerce. So that's just a few of the ideas we got. And of course, it's just technology we get at, augmented reality. Plenty of opportunity. So
yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of a platform because it basically gives you all kinds of stuff to be able to kind of add on in the future as VR and other things become more a part of this space. I wouldn't mind getting a couple of comments in here. I know JR is kind of involved a little bit in this sort of home services kind of thing. Not exactly like this kind of business, but he usually has some good insights as well. JR, you like this business?
Oh, dude, I would pay $3 million for this business. I love this business. No, really, I'm serious. I for real, and would get the money out pretty quickly. There's so many things that you can do on the marketing side that are just massive. And I don't want to bore anybody, but anybody that's a hardcore marketer out there is drooling at this deal right now. You have a lot of control. I know David asked a question as far as licensing. Do they have full licensing to these plans, or are they just reselling somebody else's IP? And again, I think that there's a lot of considerations, but from a marketing perspective, this from a guy sitting here in Brazil, this is just the ultimate deal. There's so many things you can do with email marketing, as you guys have mentioned, so many things that you can do with social. SEO, I don't care how good they are. I bet it can be done 10 times better. And if you guys want, a 10-minute overview plan, I can get you in touch with Joe Troyer, who's one of our main partners. He can just walk you through just a killer plan gratis. On the paid side, Facebook advertising, if you've got a good media buyer, Facebook advertising will just kill in the architectural space. Paid ads in Google, paid ads in TikTok, paid ads in Instagram. I mean, you can kill it with paid advertising. Developing a platform for the architects to develop. People develop platforms, but what's the onboarding process and what's the nurturing communication strategy with not only your vendor participants, but also to the customer? There's so many things you can do with something like this. And you take Andrew and Stig, I don't know you as well, but you take a cat like Andrew from the IT software side, you can automate the heck out of this thing. No, I love this business. Yeah. So John, thanks for letting me drool a little bit.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was going through it. I'm love this business. Okay, let me get a couple more comments. We were kind of back on track. If you want to participate, make sure your camera's on. Those are the only people that I call on, because I don't want to surprise people who aren't. How about Mr. David C. Martin? Can you unmute David and give us your take? Maybe a red light, a green light, a number, and a why?
Sure thing, John. I'm at like a green light 90. The later comments bump me up a bit, and the buyers' comments as well. I see this also as an online marketplace, which is something I'm personally very interested in, because you've got the sellers showing up, at, the people with the plans, and then you got the buyers, and in this case, it's list once, sell many times kind of a product as well. It's an information product. So I love the fact that there's an online marketplace, and that the buyers are looking to build it out as such, really, and the fact that it's digital products. So you're not having to carry the inventory. You can sell the same thing many times.
So you got a pretty high green light on there as well. Okay,
yep.
maybe go one more. I wouldn't mind hearing Mona's take on this. Mona, can you unmute and give me your take? What do you think of this deal? Red light, green light, number, and why?
Yeah, I think it's a great business. I'm in the residential real estate space, so I've actually been through this process with clients of mine. We paid upwards of $3,000 for plans, and just the way that it's set up, and with all the possibilities of additional services that can be provided, because most of the platforms that I've seen out there, you do have to go to different spaces in order to get your materials, take a, really good look at maybe a 3D model. And I mean, there's just so many different things that my buyers were left with questions about after we just got the plan itself. So I think this is a fantastic business. I green-lighted at 90. And then after hearing all the different ways that, things can be added on and improved, I think this is just a fantastic business. So super excited for you guys.
Thanks for that, Mona. Great take. Last one will go to Jerry and Kelly. They gave it a green light 100, so I want to find out why. Jerry, Kelly, what is it that you love about this business?
Because it's very similar to our website. It's so automated, and it just is an incredible opportunity here to really blow it up. And I really like this. And what Jared was saying earlier about marketing, there's so many different ways to market this. This is really a great business.
I mean, when Stig and Andrew and I were talking on the 911, they were saying, hey, could we pay full price for this? And I'm saying, yeah, I wouldn't start there. It's funny, I don't know if Dan's on the call, but Dan had this issue that he went out with his best offer with somebody, and it was a good offer. And, this is just a guy who was in the recycling business, I think. that was the deal he was talking about, who just expected to dicker. And he was not about to, be treated as a patsy and have to pay, what the first offer price was. He wanted some improvement, but, Dan kind of went in at the top of his range. So, kind of human nature, right? You got to be in a position where you can comfortably give a few concessions to kind of get where you want to be. So I wouldn't go in at the ask on this thing. I'd go in under, but I'd certainly, if I got bumped to the ask, especially if they were prepared to do a royalty type deal paid on revenue that gave me some flexibility as this business cycle bounces around. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I would love to own a company like this. I'm going green light 88. Yeah, in terms of the market, yeah, I mean, real estate's obviously it's obviously market dependent where I live. I mean, real estate market in this part of the world has been insane for like 4 or 5 years, more. My mother-in-law died in 2012, and, the question my wife had was, do we sell the business or not? It was worth twice what we thought it was. So, of course, you're thinking, well, if it's twice what you thought it was, I guess you're going to sell it. And I thought, well, maybe in 3 or 4 years, it'll be 4 times what we think it's worth. But then when I did some reading and I realized Toronto was, I think, identified as the second biggest bubble real estate market in the world, maybe we shouldn't be greedy and just, sell it into this very good market. That was 10 years ago. I think the house is at least 2x since then, maybe 3x, right? And that's from being the second highest or the second biggest bubble in the whole entire world in terms of real estate. So, we're obviously due for a massive correction in real estate, but people are still going to build homes. It's still a great product. You just need to be able to get through that, right? And because of the margins of that business, I think you definitely could.